Hello, I'm James Wilson.
I'm Matthew Rowney.
And on today's Addicts Reviews, we are going to possibly be doing our most exciting review to date, because we are going to be reviewing me and Matthew's favourite episode ever, End of Time, Parts 1 and 2.
It's going to be a jam-packed review, a very long, exclusive review, because we are going to go through literally everything. I cannot wait.
This is probably the most exciting review I think we've ever done here on Addicts Reviews. I don't know about you, but a lot of people had requested this episode, and I mean a hell of a lot of people.
Yeah.
So clearly, other people agree with us that this episode was pretty much pitch perfect.
Yeah, it's up there definitely. It's been on our list for a long time, but we've kind of push it forward because every time we look in our inbox, there's just another request they're asking for us to do End of Time. And since we've ended summer now, it's probably going to be our last review for a while. We're not going to stop the reviews, by the way, for anyone who's wondering. Like we did say, all the reviews are noted. We're not going to stop doing the reviews. We will find time. We are at the moment we are in the position of kind of constructing some kind of schedule. We're planning on doing one solo video each week, and then one together video a week, if that's a review or a topic or discussion or what. But yeah, that's just out there.
Yeah. So, beginning the review, Timothy Dalton's voice was just half my score right there. To be perfectly honest, there are just so many awesome things in this episode. I mean, the stellar cast that they got to be in this episode was just absolutely immense.
They got Timothy Dalton.
Timothy Dalton, James Bond himself. Only did 2 Bond movies, but who cares? He was a fucking James Bond, and a great one at that. But honestly, his voice in the intro, it built up the story arc of the 2 episodes brilliantly, and it really did have that sort of fairy fantasy sort of fairy tale sort of thing about the intro, which was brilliant. And of course, we got to see Wilf again, which was brilliant to see. Bernard Cribbins as Wilfred Mott, and that was just brilliant. The scene in the church with the choir children was very good indeed.
It was spooky, wasn't it?
It was very spooky. It was very, like I say, very fantasy, and I think it really did sort of bring together Wilf, really. And I think Wilf, besides the Doctor, I think behind the Doctor's demise and how he's going to end and everything, Wilf was the sort of face of End of Time, really.
It was great. The intro itself was brilliant. It foreshadowed the Master's return.
Yes.
Them having bad dreams. We got to see that woman who kept popping in and out of the episode. She was very mysterious. And, she was just another section of End of Time, which was brilliant. It wasn't just the Doctor's regeneration. It was all the bits and bobs going on.
Yeah.
A jam-packed episode. It had everything. It really did.
Yeah.
And then, after the credits, we've seen the Doctor visiting Yude.
Yes.
And very funny scene.
Yes, with his pink flowery necklace and his straw hat. It was just very funny. It was just brilliant, because you could tell straight away the Doctor's been trying to delay his fate, and obviously Ood Sigma did warn him, don't delay, because things are going to start to come into action a bit here. And it was also great to see the Ood again. That was also brilliant to put into the story, because I think the Ood are possibly the most... it was the Ood that first foresaw that the Doctor was going to die. The 10th Doctor was going to die. That is the beauty of this episode. Sorry, I can't believe I didn't write this down in my notes. The fact that Russell had written him in as a death for the first time was just beautiful, and you could only do that with David Tennant's Doctor.
Yeah.
It was really just beautiful.
Yeah, you always said that, it's only a regeneration, it's not a death, they're overreacting, but I think they were literally talking about a death. I don't think the Doctor was scared about regenerating. I actually think he was scared of death itself, because, he didn't get told you will regenerate when he knocks 4 times, he was told you will die. When the Doctor's dying, that can either mean he's going to regenerate or he's actually going to die. It can mean 2 different things. So to him, he might have not known if it's regeneration or permanent death, so you can understand why the guy was scared. And then we got some great flashbacks when he was like in the seance or whatever you want to call it with the Ude, and we got seeing flashbacks of him describing what happened in series 3.
Yeah, it
like
was
a recap.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was a brilliant recap to series 3.
It connected everything.
And Russell is just a genius. I mean, I saw Doctor Who Confidential, which again is with the disc, and it honestly it came with David Tennant was just praising Russell T Davies, and I praise him the same way. The way he just, makes things seem like he was planning this all along, but really he just made it up on the spot. Well, not on the spot, but he was just, Russell is just a genius of storytelling, and it was just brilliant how he brought the 10th Doctor and the Master's story full circle in the story. It was great.
Yeah, we got to see the Master. Well, actually, a bit more on the Ude, that scene with the Ude. We got to see flashbacks of the Master, and as I said, it kind of showed off what was happening throughout series 3. And then we got to see the Doctor realise, they said a great quote. They said he is returning and they are returning, and that was a great quote. And if many people didn't pick up when they said they are returning, what a hint that was. None of us picked that one up. And then the Doctor obviously went back to Earth, and then we got to see the Master's resurrection, which again was spooky. Great to see Lucy Saxon back as well.
Oh yeah. Lucy, poor Lucy. I mean, I did think that she was kind of underthought of. See, at the time when I was watching End of Time, I did think that Russell was really sort of picking things up that he dropped in his tenure. It was like he was picking these things up that he'd forgotten about, and and Lucy was one of those things, and the ring that Russell was and also in Doctor Who Confidential, he just said that the reason why he wasn't actually at first going to use those ideas that he'd used in End of Time. He thought that he might have quit by now, and those were just plot devices for other writers after him to use in the future if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But it was just great how they really did just pick up on that.
Great, yeah. Combined everything together in one big ball, and it all made perfect sense. The portions of life, I don't know about you, just the way that they put a few things into a few buckets and she threw something and you're like, the Master's back to life. It was a bit too simple. I mean, the portions of life, where the hell did they come from? But, it did resurrect the Master. It made sense, so you can't really argue about that. And Lucy Saxon sacrificed herself, poor Lucy, and that caused the Broadfell to blow up. And that's what led the Master to his resurrection to go wrong. He went insane, went blonde weirdly.
And it was just really brilliant because we all knew from the end of Series 3, we all know that the Master was insane. We all knew this. But the fact that in End of Time they sort of ramped it up a little bit, they made him a cannibalistic killer. And that is something he wasn't before. Yes, he was a psychopath, but he was sort of a charming sort of psychopath. In Series 3 where he would chat up Martha's sister and go, "You just stand there and be gorgeous," and that sort of stuff. And in this version of him, he's so cannibalistic. He will kill people just for the fun of it, and that is the most disturbing part about him. I loved the character change of the Master.
He went from cocky to sinister, and I did say this to you, didn't I, while we were watching it? The comparison between him having all the power of being Prime Minister to then being a hobo in the wastelands with no power whatsoever.
It's opposite sides of the spectrum.
The fact he could still be as menacing and as dangerous, with no power as well as all the power he did have before. Just great comparison, clever again by Russell. And then we got to see Wilf and his group of Wilf's wiggle as they were searching for the Doctor. One thing I love about End of Time is 1 minute the scene was, it was intense and very serious, and then the next scene would just be all happy. And
but it didn't seem wrong either. There are those moments in some TV shows, and some rare times in Doctor Who as well, where one moment it's a very intense moment, and then the next it's a very happy moment. But you've got to pick that certain moment. You've got to choose them wisely. And in this story, the intense moments and then the funny moments, they sort of merged in with each other pretty well.
Moffat doesn't do that too well.
Yeah. No, definitely.
He ruins serious moments with moments that aren't even funny.
Just great casting from June Whitfield, who is a Carry-On legend. She was just absolutely hilarious with the rest of the Silver Cloak, which is Wilf's group of misfit pensioners. And
feeling what the Doctors are.
Yes,
David,
I know, right? And David Tennant, he was just such a great spot about the whole thing, and he You
Is
know,
that your hand?
is that honestly? It was just hilarious, and again, Russell just great writing there, and he, like I say, he just emerged the happy and with the intense very well
And he
indeed.
did that once again with when the Doctor was chasing the Master through the wastelands, and when the Master disappeared, Wilf was reunited with him. That was when Minnie was like, "Is that your hand, Minnie?"
Yeah.
And then we went to the cafe scene,
Oh my goodness
which
me.
is probably it's the regeneration. Then there's the scene on the ship, so it's probably the third most beautiful scene in Doctor Who for me.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now there are many brilliant scenes with the Doctor and Wilf throughout End of Time Parts 1 and 2. But one of my favourite scenes has got to be the cafe scene,
Yeah,
because
the Doctor just highlighted how scared of death he was.
he was. It really did. It sort of highlighted, but still, it wasn't out of character for him either. You know, the Doctor can sometimes be too upset or be too cowardice, but you know, the Doctor can't be cowardice, especially in his last days. You know, so he was still very much in character during that scene, and Wilf was there to sort of cushion the blow a little bit.
The acting was just immense.
Yeah, and the mystery of Wilf as well. The fact that the Doctor had pointed out that, who are you? You know, people have waited millions of years to find me, and you manage it in a couple of hours. That was a great line, and it really did sort of highlight that. So the Doctor is done with Donna, but the Doctor sort of has unfinished business with Wilf. I mean, it's probably the most unexpected thing in history. Wilf started off as just a small-time character in The Voyage of the Damned.
The only reason he was in it was because the character who played Donna's father, God bless his soul, passed away.
Yeah.
So they brought Wilf in as the grandfather instead of the father who had passed away. The actual guy who played him would pass away. I can't remember his name. But Wilf was only brought in because of a previous actor's death. So, you know, it was weird how things can all merge into one, and you know, how one thing can have such an effect on the other.
And I can't imagine anyone else now. I mean, God rest his soul, I guarantee that the guy who was, the actor who was playing Donna's father was
Jeffrey.
that was the character's name, I think.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no shadow of a doubt that actor would have been superb, but I just can't think of anyone else but Bernard Cribbins now. Bernard Cribbins is Wilf, and it's just so brilliant to see him there. The fact that he's built up to have become the man that killed off the 10th Doctor, and he started out as just as like a little man in a hut in Voyage of the Damned. It was unthinkable at the time.
Yeah, it was. The music was beautiful in that scene. Everything. It was just a gorgeous scene to watch. Then there was another great narration by Timothy Dalton, the Rassilon, which was beautiful as well. Great, intense, spooky.
Timothy
narration.
Dalton just has one of those bellowing voices, doesn't he? He just has one of those very intense voices, which I just love.
And then that led to the confrontation between Doctor and Master in the Wasteland, which to me highlighted the
we're forgetting about the introduction of Joshua Naismith and his daughter.
Oh yeah, it's weird how I forgot about that.
You were trying to avoid that, weren't you?
Yes.
But
forgettable characters.
But no, Matthew is right a little bit. Joshua Naismith and their daughter, though they did have sort of important parts to play in the prophecy and to the ending of the story. Russell sort of really did, you know, those characters definitely did have a part to play in the story, but they were very one-dimensional characters, and their motives aren't really shown very often. Why does this man want his daughter to live forever? You know, we get that she's a spoilt brat, and this man just wants his daughter to live forever, and you know, you just hate them from the very second they step on screen, don't you?
You described them as one-dimensional. I said the immortality ray had a great effect on the actual plot, but I just felt the Naismiths were just transparent. You know, that's probably why I actually forgot to mention their scene, because I didn't write any notes down, because you could just see straight through them, and it was like they were never there to me. They were just another two characters who were there. They had a slight effect, but not a significant effect you'd really remember. But then it did lead, forget them, you mostly did anyway, then it went to the scene between the Doctor and the Master in the Wastelands, and it showed the unique relationship, which is the hate but the respect that they have for each other.
Well, I mean, I've always said that the Master will never kill the Doctor himself, but let's face it, the Master will let the Doctor die. If someone was about to kill the Doctor, he wouldn't save him. You know, he would let the Doctor die. But I don't think the Master could and ever would actually kill the Doctor himself.
He's a lonely boy, isn't he?
Yeah,
trying to hang on to every little thing he can
yeah,
get.
I did describe him like that at one point. The Master is very much a lost child in this episode because obviously the Doctor has all the answers. You know, the Doctor knew what was going on at the end of the Time War. He has all the answers, whereas the Master is kept in the dark, and I think that's a reason for his insanity. You know, he's kept in the dark. He doesn't know what truly happened about his own people. You know, so he's very much disturbed in that way as well. And John Simm as the Master, again, as we said before, he was just so disturbed and such.
More insane than ever.
Exactly, and it was just so much opposite sides of the spectrum. Last time it was psychotic but charming. This time it's cannibalistic rage and fury that's fueling him, and unquenchable hunger. It's really brilliant to watch. And the Master, besides the Doctor himself, the Master had the best dialogue of the episode.
Yeah, did you? Then it led to the Master getting abducted, you could say, kidnapped, whatever, by them weird people in a helicopter. And that led to the Doctor tracking him. Well, he went back for Wilf. Wilf took arms, as he was told to do by that mysterious woman once again. He took arms, they just avoided Donna. They went to Naismith's mansion, and they found the immortality ray, the Vinvoce, or whatever they were called, which, once again, great side characters. They were not forgettable. Unlike the Naismiths, they had a very big point to play.
Yeah. Literally, because they had pointy heads.
Yeah. That was...
Come on, that was a good joke.
Well,
but anyway, yeah, so the Vinvoces...
please put in the comment section below if that was a good joke. Anyway.
It was a good joke. Anyway, so the Vinvoces were, I think, a great pair, and they were very enjoyable to watch. Again, Sinead Keenan, who had played the woman Vinvoce, I don't know who played the man Vinvoce, but it was just great because Russell had admired very much the design of Bana Kaphalata in Voyager the Damned. He had enjoyed their design, so he wanted to do a sort of taller, more green sort of version. Yeah. So it was very good to see that design back as well. And oh my God, the ending to part one, how intense was that?
You know, the Master basically becoming the template and making every single human like him, the Master race. And I mean, I thought the Master becoming everyone was a bit lackluster. I thought I wasn't unsure. I was unsure at first, but it did give him control of the world. And in part two, that became a huge plot point because that was what led to him, you know, connecting to the White Fun Star and bringing the Time Lords. We'll get to that later. But yeah, the cliffhanger was climactic because it introduced the Time Lords.
Yeah, honestly, that moment where I saw the Time Lords, I still remember the very day that I saw that episode.
What a treat for modern viewers!
It really was, and I remember Christmas Day watching it with Matthew, and honestly, just seeing the Time Lords return, it was so big for me, and probably for you guys as well when you guys watched it. It was just so brilliant. And Timothy Dalton, if he's not a Time Lord, he fucking well should be. Because Timothy Dalton has such a presence. He makes himself known on screen. He did that in James Bond. He's done that in every project he has, whether that movie or TV show is good or bad, I don't care.
He makes his presence known, doesn't he?
He really does. He really does add that sort of zest into the part, and he really did that brilliantly. So yeah, now we go on to part two, which is where the true action begins.
Yeah, we got to see post-war Gallifrey, should I say, at the beginning, with Dalek ships all over the place. That was a great treat. Seeing the Time Lords themselves was a great treat.
Seeing Gallifrey.
Yeah, and then Rassilon was sat at a table, and we really got to see how selfish and corrupt the Time Lords were.
Yeah.
The fact that she was trying to basically say, just let the war end. You know, be peaceful. Stop being this corrupt Time Lord. You know, stop being evil. Let it end. And he just stood up and went, "Thank you for your opinion," and killed him on the spot.
With that gauntlet thing, honestly, it was really, he made himself feared. And as I said before, Timothy Dalton was just perfect for the role of Rassilon. I swear to God, if I know he might have been a child the last time Rassilon appeared, which I think was the Five Doctors. I honestly don't know. But honestly, if there was a Timothy Dalton back then, good God, he should have been Rassilon all along.
Yeah, definitely. Then we went back to Gone with Sin on Earth, where the Doctor was tied up and he had a scene, a beautiful scene with the Master, where they were like basically describing the same thing they described at the end of Series 3, another recap.
Yes.
With the Master looking into the intended schism, going insane and everything. And then there was a funny scene where he was like, 6 billion pairs of eyes and you're still bone dead stupid. It's like, what do you mean? That guy. is 1 inch too tall. Bosh!
It-
Elbow to the face.
Honestly, honestly, I love how Russell had just put in the funny moments in with the. See, that's how you do funny moments, Moffat.
Yeah, Moffat.
That is how you do funny moments.
Scottish prick. Give us a trailer.
See, the Welsh go over the Scottish any day. But yes,
David Scottish.
very true indeed. But anyway, so yeah, it was just great. Worst rescue ever. It was just that was just a great line, and the rescue mission that Wilf and the Vinvoches tried to rescue the Doctor, and honestly, it was just I just love how Russell, even in the Doctor's final episode, Russell wasn't afraid to add in a really hilarious moment.
He wasn't, no. Then there was a few scenes with him on the ship. We got to see the mysterious woman again, saying he took arms. You know, I was lost once, and very mysterious. Once again, you described her as like pushing the plot along. You know, I did mention to Jim during the video while we were watching it. I was like, is she really that significant? And you were like, well, she's pushing the plot along.
Yeah, well, I mean, as much as unimportant these things did seem, I mean, you thought the same with the Master turning everyone on planet Earth into him. You know, Matty did actually think that, you know, that was sort of a bit of a pointless thing, you know, him turning everyone into himself. But I think that did push the plot along. It had, despite how unimportant all these things seemed, they had an important thing to play, and I think that was Russell's plan all along.
It was Russell, very clever. And then another beautiful scene. The second most beautiful scene. Such a heartwarming heart-to-heart when the Doctor... Heart-to-hearts, good. When the Doctor was fixing the heating, and then obviously Bernard Cribbins, Wilf came in, sat with him, and they were just saying some beautiful lines like, you know, he was just saying, I'd be proud if you were my dad. And it was just so
honestly,
acting again.
I know, those two just had such a chemistry, and honestly, it was just brilliant. I can't believe they didn't think of making the Doctor and Wilf a partnership before.
I think they were so good as a one-off.
They were. I mean, their chemistry was just great, dramatically and comedically. It was just so great to see them bouncing off each other. Their lines together was just brilliant. And despite the fact that Bernard Cribbins, in his heyday, in his prime, he was more of a comedic actor. And the fact that he was doing such great acting with David, it was just so brilliant. Those two were just perfect together.
They are, yeah. And the scene you're always just saying, sometimes I think a Time Lord was too long. You know, brilliant scene, beautiful scene to watch. It's one of them scenes you just can't describe with words.
Yeah.
And then they basically they flew back down to the Naismith mansion. At the same time, the Master got the White Point Star from Gallifrey. So much going on. He basically told the Doctor White Point Star, and the Doctor picked up the gun as if to say, like he snapped again. Like we said in the Waters of Mars review. No, he snapped, and he was basically saying, Time Lord, shit got serious. I'm gonna get this gun.
Yeah, it was just great because 1 minute he was refusing to take the gun, and then next minute he's practically snatching it off Wilf.
Just like to say, I'm not going to shoot the Master because I don't want to stoop to his level. But
Yeah.
as soon as the Time Lords come back, the inner Time Lord self came out.
Yeah, honestly. I think I did say this whilst the episode was going on when the Time Lords actually did return, that I think the Time Lords bring out the worst in the Doctor when they're in the room.
Definitely, yeah. The real corrupt side of the Doctor does come out then, and you can see why. But yeah, they did go back down to the Naismith mansion. The Doctor jumped out heroically. Well, we'll mention the fact that Wilf was in that little laser pods and he was shooting all the missiles and he was enjoying himself. A good little thing to point out. And the final Alonzi. How can we forget the final Alonzi?
Yes, the last Alonzi that the 10th Doctor ever said.
The greatest.
Let's
Alonzi.
just forget completely that the 11th Doctor said Alonzi in Nightmare in Silver. Let's just completely forget about that.
That was just, oh god.
That didn't happen.
I feel some sick.
Matthew, it's end of time. Don't feel sick.
Sorry.
It didn't happen.
Right,
but yes, so the last Alonzi was just brilliant. It built it up brilliantly. Again, praising Murray Gold. Honestly, it was just brilliant. Rosalind, the close-up of the Doctor as he was saying it. You know, it was just brilliant.
Power and wisdom and consolation to the soul in times of need. What's that then?
Alonzi! It was just brilliant. And again, the missile battle was so exciting. The CGI was very impressive. And you can tell that Bernard Cribbins enjoyed every second with those ACAT guns.
I remember the Confidential, and he was just, even though like, there was so much green screen, he was just loving it, wasn't he?
Yeah, I remember at one point, the cameras had stopped and he kept going on. They were like, Bernard, we've stopped now.
It's time to go home. He said, "No, I'm firing at pretend missiles."
Do you want to keep the ACAT gun? Yes. So honestly,
But,
it was just so.
he landed heroically through the glass roof, and the Doctor Master Time Lord confrontation was the most intense scene of End of Time.
Possibly in TV history, I think.
When he was just switching the gun. I seriously didn't know who the hell he was going to shoot.
Yeah, I honestly thought he was going to shoot someone because, like I said, I think the Time Lords bring the worst out in him when they're in the room. And honestly, it was probably the most tense moment. I was on the edge of my seat, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I seen a meme on Facebook the other day with a picture of David holding the gun, and it was like, the Doctor's heavily against using guns, but he looks so awesome using them. That was just great. But yeah, the Doctor was describing the Time War to the Master. And the switching aim was very intense. And then he's seen a woman. He's seen that woman again.
Yes.
Speculative. Is that woman his mother? I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that woman was his mother? The way he looked at her.
The way the Doctor did look at her, it seemed as though that she was the one that convinced him. It's as if she was saying, what you're thinking of doing is wrong. Think of something else. And then, that is a look that I think only a mother and son would give. It did look like a mother-son sort of moment, and I think that definitely is the Doctor's mother.
Definitely, and that made him basically say to the Master, get out of the way, shot it, switched the link, and then it was like, Rassilon was like, you'll die with me, Doctor, I know, and it was like, oh my god, Rassilon's going to kill him. And then, this bit I should have, and the Master just stood up and like, get out of the way, and just boom! Hit Rassilon, really. The music was great. You were just kind of like, get in there, Master.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a last heroic moment. It was the first heroic moment the Master had ever done.
You said that the Master basically realised that he had a larger enemy than the Doctor.
Yeah, I mean, the Master, he'd realised that the Time Lords were the ones that caused the faux drumbeat in his head that had been tormenting him his entire life. And he realised that he had a bigger enemy than the Doctor to face. So it was just brilliant, that scene where he's going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then vanished into the deep whiteness of the Time War to possibly get trapped in there forever. And then, of course, the Doctor was laid there on the floor, just gasp of relief that he had lived.
The moment every Whovian's heart sunk.
Yes.
Because I remember sat there thinking, no way, he survived. This is too good to be true. And then...
It was just 4 knocks.
And the music just went...
And the music just twisted, and it turned mangled music, and it was just so brilliant. And again, you Rosalind praising the director, who's a great director, and the way that Wilf was just out of focus. And you knew that Wilf was in there, you knew that was Wilf, but he was still out of focus, and you could see on the Doctor's face, he was thinking, of course. Who else?
Yeah, and his reaction was great. We got to see the selfish side of him again, where he was like throwing stuff around, saying, and he said, "You're remotely important."
You're not remotely important.
Yeah, he was just completely digging at Wilf, and it was hard to watch really because I really felt for Wilf, and he was throwing stuff around and shouting, and then he just stopped. It was like, lived too long, and it was beautiful the way he walked over and just walked and said, "Wilf, it would be my honour." And then watching the Doctor just like perish inside that chamber, the music again. Just made you. It was so sad. It made you just want to cry for the 10th Doctor, didn't it?
It really did. It was honestly just one of the greatest scenes in Doctor Who history. I think it definitely was.
And then obviously he sent Wilf back, and then we saw his companions, which was a beautiful treat. We got to see how they were doing and everything.
Yeah, some people I've spoken to about the episode, they all thought that the companions and saying goodbye to them was a bit of a drag. Some people thought, but I think it was really beautiful, and the fact that the Doctor didn't actually speak to them. To a majority of them didn't speak to them, and he didn't have to tell them that he was going to die or regenerate or whatever. They didn't have to know that. He didn't have to tell them because they knew. The Doctor doesn't just drop in and visit them, unless there's a fatal thing about to happen to the Doctor.
Yeah, he didn't. It's the way he waved at Sarah Jane and hooked up Captain Jack with Alonso, which was a bit weird. And he even seen the granddaughter of the woman he fell in love with back in the when he was human. That was another great touch as well. And then he saw Rose at the end, and I found that heartwarming. And then we see the Doctor was staggering towards the TARDIS, and then we heard Ood saying, you know, your song is ending, but the story never ends, and Validation hit. Oh, beautiful.
Validation, possibly the greatest piece of music ever that Murray Gold has ever produced.
The most beautiful.
Honestly, Validation, I still listen to that even now, and it was just so beautiful and so perfect for David Tennant's last. And if he comes up with anything anywhere near as good for Matt Smith's last episode, Murray Gold will officially be my favourite composer of all time.
And then the scene that made me shed tears, it always does, when he's walking around the TARDIS and he kind of looks at the screen and says, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
That's like stabbing and twisting a knife at your heart.
Yeah, and they had 4 alternate ways that the Doctor would say, I don't want to go. But one of them was just very holding back the tears. One was where he was just really blurting out tears.
David pointed out that was out of character. You know, many people were against his final word, but I think at first we were like, that's a bit, you know, that's not the 10th Doctor. But in the end, it was courageous, and he was basically saying what we were all saying in our head. We don't want you to go. It built up, and then went poof, blew the TARDIS up, and then, you know, seeing David go was just horrific. And then in came Matt Smith.
Yes. Well, we'll stop there.
So concluding.
Yes, Matthew.
Okay, I'll go first then. End of Time Parts 1 and 2 were the most emotional, moving and enjoyable episodes in Doctor Who history. The plot was fantastic and well developed, with every small insignificant scene combining together into a very clever story. The Master's return was great, bringing back the Doctor-Master love-hate rivalry unlike any other. The Time Lords returning was a huge treat for modern viewers, and Bernard Cribbins' performance as Wilf was outstanding, showing great chemistry between him and the Doctor, which led to some of the most emotional, heartfelt scenes between any Doctor and companion. Acting all round was to perfection, especially David Tennant's. He left his best acting till last, showing every reason why we love the 10th Doctor and how much we will miss him. This was supported by clever direction by Rose Lynn and gorgeous music by Murray Gold throughout, especially by Validation. The Doctor's emotional regeneration was upsetting, making me shed a tear every time. This episode was the perfect, deserving conclusion to David's run as the Doctor and Russell's run as head writer. End of Time is my favourite episode of all time. It is the greatest episode of all time, and it is the biggest 10 out of 10 I will ever give.
Oh yes, now for my conclusion. End of Time was a great final story for the 10th Doctor to bow out on, with some of the best actors in Britain giving all they possibly could for David Tennant's swan song. But nobody did as well as Tennant himself, who gave the best acting of his tenure as he exhibited his fear of dying and yet managed to stay in character. Wilf had great dialogue throughout parts 1 and 2, and himself and Tennant were bouncing off each other from all angles. Their scenes together were some of the best of the story. John Simm's return as the Master was more disturbed and insane than ever, with a great revelation of how the 4 drum beat came to be, and it was cleverly woven in through and brought the Doctor and the Master's feud full circle. Timothy Dalton as Rassilon was chilling, intimidating, and if that man isn't a Time Lord, he certainly should be. The Wilf twist at the end was the most shocking and unexpected ending I've ever experienced as a Whovian. The goodbye to his companions was heartfelt, and David's regeneration with Validation made me cry non-stop. Great praise from director Rose Lynn and composer Murray Gold. This episode was the greatest Doctor Who story of all time. 10 out of 10.
Well, it's been a long review, guys. I hope you stick with us. We did say yesterday we were going to answer comments, but it's a bit late to answer comments now. We promise you tomorrow. Now, we did get given a brilliant message on Facebook by Owen Salmons. There have been 2 more leaked images of the 50th trailer at Comic-Con, one showing the 10th Doctor, the other showing the TARDIS and the Time War. We will bring you them tomorrow. Will we bring them tomorrow?
Yes, we will.
We will answer... We will dedicate half of that video, if not, to answering all the comments from this review, Blink, and Waters of Mars. Do you want to do that?
Yes.
Okay,
yep.
We'll do that.
Okay, so thank you all. If you guys have kept with us throughout over half an hour of a review, thank you so much for continuing to listen. Please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and if you do, we shall subscribe right back.
Yes, comment in the comment section below your views on End of Time, why if it's your favourite episode of all time, because so many people asked us for this episode, so we're expecting a great reaction. And also all contact details for any social networking sites are on the on the YouTube banner, Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Google+, they're all there. We do advise you to use them in the next couple of weeks as we go back to college, because this is our last review for a while and it's been a biggie.
Yes, definitely. I'm James Wilson.
I'm Matthew Rowney.
This has been Who Addicts Reviews. Hope you guys have had a nice summer.